We're live.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
How's it going?
Welcome to Broadsheet on Telly. It is Thursday, the 25th of June, 9:30 Irish Standard Time. It means if you're watching us, there's nothing else on the telly unless you're a Beckham Liverpool supporter or one of those.
We're going to win
teams.
the league. We're going to win the league. And now
I'm
you're
gonna
going to believe us. Now you're going to believe us. Now you're going to believe us.
Derek's
We're
fired.
going to win the league.
Is that the Liverpool song?
Well, it is tonight. It is tonight.
Okay.
We're going to win the league.
Who are you
Just
playing?
Well, Man City are playing Chelsea at the moment, and it's 1-1. And if it remains a draw or if Chelsea win, then Liverpool can't be caught because we're 23 points ahead, and we'll be uncatchable. So we will win the title tonight unless Man City win this game. And to win this game, we'll beat them next week anyway. So we're going to win the league.
So you kind of you really actually need to be shouting for Chelsea then.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of in the right colour, so.
You're wearing the right colours for it, yeah.
Although this is my Pride top, anyone can see. This is Pride weekend. See it, everybody?
Very good.
Yeah. I was going to put a flag up. I just didn't get out today.
Why didn't you put a flag up?
Well, it was my plan to go to Mr. Pricer today that sells all that crap, and I just didn't get out, Working. I do work, folks.
I put up a Carlow flag in Dunboyne in County Meath one year when the championship started, and people thought it was a gay pride flag that I was putting up, because obviously Carlow has the traffic light colours,
Yeah.
Where
But Meath play Carlow in the hurling league, don't they? They're in the same division.
Yes, yeah.
Jesus, shows how many Meath fellas turn up to support the hurlers. Anyway, another story.
I don't know what any of this means. Football. If you're join us tonight in the chat pit and you give a shit about football, let us know. And if you don't give a shit, let us know. I do know, Derek, that somebody commented on the site today that now where's the comment specifically? They said they were planning on watching The Incredibles tonight, and they might even watch the two Incredibles films. Now I don't know if there was them having a go at us or if they were having a go at the fact that Liverpool's on the telly. I don't know. I guess we'll never know unless Slightly Bemused wants to tell us. I'm sure it's something to do with Liverpool.
I'll check.
So Derek,
he's probably a Man United fan, can't handle it.
So Derek, your current nation is topping the table of countries that are losing the run of themselves at the moment. How's things been in the last week? Because it's taken another dramatic turn.
Yeah, it's after exploding again. California is after been hit badly after having record numbers of cases. I think it was 7,000 cases yesterday. Texas, all along the south and the west coast, there's been a huge explosion in new cases. Now, of course, the president says the only reason we're finding all these cases is because of all the testing, and if we didn't test, then it would go away. Which is absolutely insane thing to say. The plus side is the number of hospitalizations and the number of deaths hasn't increased as dramatically as it did originally. The spike that happened originally when there was a huge demand on ICUs and where there was a huge number of deaths, that hasn't really reached up again. But the number of cases is definitely very worrying. I suppose we were a little bit bored last week. We took a trip down to LA to see some friends, and we're in Manhattan Beach, and the place was hopping. The restaurants, lots of outside dining. Being in LA, there's lots of space for outside dining, but it was very, very lively. Beaches were very busy. We took our precautions. We had our masks. We washed our hands. But yeah, it's definitely worrying developments all around. And there's a graphic that I saw comparing the United States to the European Union, and United States graph just went, it leveled off and then shot up, and the European Union graph is just trending downwards consistently. So I don't know. There's definitely the political appetite here with Trump. He's determined to push ahead, opening up. All his Republican buddies they're just so afraid of him. They just row in behind him. So this virus is not gone yet. It's nowhere. We're not even talking about the second wave or the second spike. This is still the first wave, and it's been handled really, really badly.
And that's the thing, that the propaganda is that it's a second wave, and the reality is, the first wave hasn't ridden out. So, did you fly down to LA from your for those who don't know, you're in the Bay Area, so it's the equivalent of Dublin to London flight wise. So we drove down.
Yeah.
And was there masks aplenty out in the streets? So what was the vibe like? Are people accepting that things are very bad, or?
I would say up here, I'd say the compliance is like 95%. Certainly in stores here in the Bay Area, where we are, I'd say it's 100% in stores. LA was pretty good, but it wasn't as tight as here. I'd say maybe 75% compliance in LA, as opposed to almost full compliance up here. So I'd say there was a little bit of slippage down there, I think. But again, we were in a particular part of LA, so I can't speak for the whole lot of LA. It's only a little corner that we were in. But we didn't risk the plane because I wouldn't be comfortable flying yet. I think it's just too cramped. And when you're able to just drive, we said that's what we do.
And there's the talk of the news tonight. We're going officially into phase 3 on Monday, which was expected. But the air bridges, this fantasy of the air bridges has been chaired. And Ireland, of course, is always last in terms of European countries to open up. I'm not sure if you're following. But certainly the speculation is it's going to be at least 2 months before before the US visitors are welcomed open armed. Although technically they can just turn up and fill in the form and do as they please, because there's no stopping anyone at the border. But then as an Irish citizen who's resident in the US, then how does that leave you and the family?
It's a good question. I saw that the European Union is thinking of banning US travellers to the European Union. But of course, we could always just fly to London and then hop across to Ireland that way, that would be sort of our get out of jail card, if you like. As I say, we're trying to obey the rules. We hope to get home for Christmas time. If things can open up by Christmas time, that'd be our plan. We have nothing really there's nothing on the cards before that. But just when I heard the European Union was going to cancel or was going to block US visitors, I thought the route to London might be a good way for us to be able to override that.
Derek, you're pretty much admitting to flouting the rules.
I'm just thinking, yeah.
So
writing it now, you don't get to complain about Trump now.
It's one rule for us and one rule for everyone else. But Vanessa, we don't have to worry about such things because it looks like we can have air bridges and go off on our little jollies. Do you think now, Vanessa, from an Irish perspective? I've just realised I didn't intro anyone tonight, but sure, we're all fucking celebrities, aren't we? And that's all it is. So Vanessa, there's a lot of speculation. Will Spain, Italy be on the list, won't they? It looks like Portugal will be, and what was the other, the leak, depending on who you talk to, there's different leaks. Germany, Portugal, France are looking like they will. Would you be eager to jump on a plane and take a holiday?
I would. I'd head over to Lukey, no problem, but to say hi and give him, so I'd hang out with them. But the problem is the 2 weeks that you're in self-isolation on the way back. So I think once that's removed, we'll all be booking holidays everywhere.
So July 9th, if that's lifted, you're happy to get on a plane. Do you think? Do you think we would see much of an uptake on that? What do you feel?
I think so. I think people are adjusted to sort of they've adjusted to the behavior of social distancing and, you know, wearing gloves and wearing masks and getting the full detail of the hand wash and the you know, like a surgeon and I think people are adjusted to it now. It's so normal to be in a queue with like that much between everybody, and I think the fear is gone. Yeah, I do. I don't think anyone would be afraid to get on a plane. Now, if I was in the vulnerable group, I can expect there to be some anxiety, absolutely. And because I'm not in that vulnerable group, I suppose I can be a bit feckless about it. And then you have to think about your own behaviour and are you putting other people at risk? You know, I suppose you would adjust your behaviour that way, but I would absolutely get on that flight. In fact, I was still hoping to be flying to LA. So
she just won't let it go. She has
No,
images driving down that Pacific highway.
I will not let it go.
So Derek can tell you what it's like. That could be your holiday. Derek will tell you.
I'll send you some pictures.
But essentially, like anecdotally, I'm seeing the it's divided. I'm certainly happy to. Well, actually, I am getting on a plane. But I certainly don't have an issue. But it's interesting, the social distancing, because Spain obviously opened up. Derek is obviously watching. Life and death for Derek. He's watching Liverpool play football. So,
but come here, can I ask actually? Sorry, Neil. You're watching the match there. What is the game? Is it equally good? Like, is the football as good with no crowds there? Is it missing anything with it just being
hugely
in an empty pitch?
Hugely.
Is it?
It's a hard watch, like with no fans. You know, at that level, sport is about the fans. You know, and the atmosphere that's created, and you know, it's a massive loss. It's better to have football than no football, but no, football needs fans. 100%. And even to be a television fan watching on the TV, like they pipe in this like virtual sound or canned crowd noise, and it's just nah, it's not for me.
Well, we're very sorry to hear that, Derek.
Sorry, I interrupted you. I apologize for being rude. It's just
Leo, Pascal, Simon, any of you watching out, if you could maybe in your press conference tomorrow give a nod to when Derek can expect to hear crowds, real crowds. Now I forget where we bloody were. So Spain opened up on the 21st of June to all Europe, all EU and Schengen travellers, including the UK. And there was him and hawing about whether they would to the UK publicly by politicians, but that happens in Spain where they change their mind a lot. But ultimately they allowed it because they said a lot of British tourists have holiday homes. But anecdotally from my sources, I'm hearing, so in Spain, face masks are mandatory in spaces where social distancing isn't possible, indoor and outdoor. So basically anything indoor, face masks are mandatory. And I've heard of a couple of stories now of holiday makers. I won't say which country they're from, but it's very close to us, and people going in flouting the rules and pretty much facing a wall of anger from staff refusing to serve them and other customers as well, who expressing ire at the lack of face mask wearing. So I guess by the time 9th of July comes around, we'll have a fair idea what impact that's had on Spain, and I guess Greece as well, who opened their doors. Time will tell. But I've said it before, I'd rather be in lockdown in the sun than lockdown here.
It was sunny here as well. No.
We're all bracing for thunderstorms again.
Oh, is that it? I was wondering why my hair was so funny.
No wonder why you could pick up RT2 on your glasses. Of course, the real big news today is, well, not the big news of the week is politics. Vanessa, maybe do you want to take this one, because you are, when it comes to politics, you know all. What's going on? What's going on with the Greens?
What's going on with the Greens? I think there's the Greens their size, their numbers swelled so much over a short period of time from prior to the local elections last year. And so they have a lot of new members who wouldn't have been there in the previous time the Greens were in government, around Dan Boyd's time, you know. And so they seem to be taking the high moral ground about not going into this government. And Eamon Ryan is adamant about going into this government because he has been a minister before. And I just looking at it now, I think he is the only member of the Green Parliamentary Party who's had a ministerial before. So there's a suggestion, obviously, it's sort of the ground talk is that he just wants to get his second ministerial term. But Kenneth Catherine Martin is in the background, who I think is probably one of the most talented political minds we have in the country, actually. So I suspect she'll take that leadership handy enough. As to the vote, where all the members were sent out a ballot, it's like less than 3,000. If they even have 3,000 members, I'll be impressed. But they all get to vote yes or no for this programme to government. And like the thing about the programme for government, and I said it here before, folks, that's nonsense. You'll know the programme for government when you know who gets what ministry. Now, Pascal has just applied for the job of the EU finance minister. So we probably will have a new minister for finance that won't be Pascal. My tip is Michael McGrath, by the way. The Green Party, I actually do think they will vote to go into government. And I hope they do vote to go into government. And I'll tell you why, is they have 12 TDs now. And those 12 TDs have direct access to the government. Some of them will be ministers and junior ministers. They are in the seat of government and they can influence that. They can contribute at that level. You can't put a price on it, rather than sit over in the backbench, over in the opposition, trying to carve out speaking time with Sinn Féin and People Before Profit and Paul Murphy's Rise and whatever group Joan Collins is now in. So they will do far better for themselves in government, but not just even from visual national politics way sort of platform, but from a local platform as well. Dublin South Central elected their first Green TD ever here in the last general election in February. And we have an opportunity of having a TD that has access to government. Like, why would you not want that for your constituency? Why would you not want that for your constituents? And I'd be very disappointed if they vote not to go into government. But I think it's down to an awful lot of their members aren't experienced grassroots workers in the way that Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil would have had people that have been, involved at Corla and common level for 30 years, 40 years, around the country. So that's probably why it looks a lot noisier than it really is, and a bit scrappier. They may not be used to. They've only been in a political party maybe for 2 or 3 years. They may not be used to party with politics. And I can understand that, because that's probably one of the reasons why I've never joined a political party, is because of the party with. I think this time next week we'll definitely have a new government. And apparently Michael D. Higgins has said he's not going to let them dissolve a government, dissolve the Dáil again, to run again. If it doesn't come to pass, if you don't get a Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael Green Party government by this time next week, and there is no general election allowed, another run at it allowed, what do you do then? Do Fianna Fáil finally get their act together and sit down with Sinn Féin? I don't know. I don't think Fine Gael are going to go quietly into government.
Yeah, I think the current proposal is I think it's lasting any length of time at all. I'm not as familiar with the Green Party as I once was. I know Eamon Ryan always came across as being a very decent fella. I don't agree with him on a lot of things, but I don't doubt his decency. The new lady, Catherine Martin, I'm not familiar with her at all, so I can't comment. She wasn't on the radar for me when I left Ireland to come over here. But I do remember the last time the Greens were in government with Fianna Fáil, and they were absolutely dreadful. They were part of the government that implemented austerity, inflicted all that pain on so many people. And I've a sore point with them because of that, because of the way they introduced austerity in 2008, 2009 government.
Yeah, but Derek, do you mind if I step in here? Well, the Green Party, when they were in with Fianna Fáil then, they didn't quite introduce austerity. That government was probably the cause of the austerity years coming in. Most of that was Labour and Fine Gael. You know, those changes, those austerity budgets were a lot.
No. Fianna Fáil and the Greens, they introduced the austerity that really hammered, for example, public sector workers, teachers, nurses, guards. They introduced an absolutely horrendous thing called a pension levy, which was just it was illegal. It was unconstitutional, and the unions let down their members really badly by not taking that challenge that very, very seriously. I've a lot of anger to that Fianna Fáil Green government and what they did to the country and what they did to people. The austerity was imposed and it hammered people for years, and it's taken a long time to try and recover from that.
Yeah, I recognise some of the austerity measures that were introduced by Brian Linehan in that emergency budget in 08, October 08, September, October 08. But I mean, Fine Gael and Labour really drummed it in. You know, if you look at some of the cuts in social welfare, the pension levy affected full-time, permanently employed public servants. Whereas they went a step further in the next government, in the Fine Gael Labour government, and tackled social welfare and went in cheat us all, and bringing the social the list of stuff that Joan Burton did as Minister for Social Welfare.
I agree with you. She was absolutely disgraced as well, shameful, absolutely. To my shame, I jumped on the Gilmore for Taoiseach bandwagon, and everyone I spoke to, I said, please, we need to get Gilmore in as Taoiseach, because I bought the Kool-Aid. And Joan Burton, what she did with the social welfare cuts, reducing it to €100 for people under 25 and that type of thing, just mean, horrible stuff. And Labour ran on the platform of they weren't going to do this, and that, like, I'm so happy to see Labour, as somebody who would probably lean towards a Labour style party. I'm so happy to see them at like less than 4% in the polls. I really, really, I think what they did was beyond cynical. It was all about Rory Quinn. Oh my God.
Oh, he was
he was somebody that I really admired. When I was in college, he was Minister of Finance, and I thought he was doing a great job. And then he comes in as Minister for Education, and I spoke to him at ASTI conferences one year, right? And we had a pint, and he was like such a nice man, and he was on our side, and he was like, you know, sympathetic to the plight of young teachers and so on. And then next year he's Minister for Education, and he does.
I did nothing.
The exact opposite of what he's. He did worse. He done worse. If he had done nothing, it would have been better.
Well, yeah, actually, you're right. He was worse. But you know what? I've always felt his biggest failure as Minister for Ed was, as an atheist, as a loud and proud practicing atheist, all his political career. He had a great opportunity to take the schools back, and he was actually the minister to do it, and he just cried off. Now I know people in the Labour Party, and I've often said this to them. I was sure there was this and there was that, and there was we couldn't get this done, and then it all ended too quickly, and we didn't get the chance, and we didn't have the votes, and like it was just he was in probably one of the most powerful. It may not look at Ed, but education is a very powerful department, on the basis that, you know, the unions, the teachers' unions, would be a very, very strong lobby group on their own. I know there's different unions, but collectively, as a force, they're a force to be reckoned with. And I've always felt that was a huge failure, and I think Labour would have actually survived a bit better if they'd have got that over, if he'd have even made an effort other than talk about it. I think that was a huge failure of the Labour credentials.
Before he entered into that government, that Fine Gael Labour government, then the Kenny government, before he entered into that government, I bought his autobiography. I think it was called A Turn Left, or Take a Left Turn along the road, or something like that. And one of the things I know he seemed to be very, very proud of every ministerial office he had, how he renovated the office. But he gave lots of time in his book to how he entered into the finance office, and how it was run down, and how he spent money to renovate his office and bring it up to a fitting standard for a minister. And each of the portfolios he had, he renovated his office. So that's what I think was important to him.
Well, he was an architect.
I think, yes, and that was his saying. Like, as an architect, this is what I felt I had to do to bring the offices up to standard. But Pat Rabbit was another one. Like Quinn, Rabbit, Bruton, Gilmore.
Rabbit was a fraud.
Gilmore, Rabbit. They came from Democratic left, right? And for them to do what they did,
try the Workers' Party. Go
the Workers' Party. Yeah. Like Punchista Rasa. Like he went off to Europe, I know, but I was so let down by those people. So let down. And just as I say, I'm glad that they are being punished. I suppose I understand why the Greens have made a resurgence I reckon a lot of their vote is from a lot of young, idealistic people who are very, very concerned about the environment. And I have the feeling as well that a lot of Green voters are probably a little bit left-leaning as well. They probably they want a government, or they're voting for a party that they think might tackle inequality and stuff like that. And if they go in with Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, like, they're going to get chewed up. I'd say I think.
I don't think so. I think they'll be able to stand their ground. I think if Catherine Martin, and I actually do think Catherine Martin will get through the leadership. But it's not even a battle. It's in their rules to have an election after every general election. Just that Eamon didn't have a challenger before now. I think Catherine Martin. I don't think it will be the end of the Green Party. I think they'll establish themselves. Their newer members will get more involved in politics, and they'll see it's a longer game. It's not just what's happening now. like if you look at most of the younger activists, the majority of their party, this was their first general election. You know, and now this is the first. This is the sort of this is where they'll all grow teeth as well, and how they run their constituencies, and you know, setting up constituency offices, helping. And Sinn Féin are in the same boat here, by the way. You know, they have a lot of new TDs that sort of came out of nowhere, and they have no boots on the street locally. They have just, you know, and Greens would be the same. They have to set up constituency offices. They have to engage people. They have to hire people, you know, and to staff them. They have to deal with constituents morning, noon, and night. So there's an awful lot of learning to do and adjusting. You know, at the end of the day, like, oh, sorry.
Sorry, I just want to ask. Like, I say I'm not familiar. There should be with the Green Party, but on the left-right spectrum, do they position themselves? Are they centre-left, or are they just flat in the centre, or what's their, like, in terms of economics and social policy?
I would actually say they were centre. I don't see any. I don't know where. I can't see. I don't recognize anything in their profile or their activities that suggest left at all.
People, there's a short memory in politics in Ireland. I mean, as I said, they got decimated the last time round, and I know of some hardcore Green Party fans who at the time who got behind them for environmental reasons, which is fair enough. But they were utterly disappointed at their at what emerged, like you were saying, Derek. But certainly one common comment that I got was that they were taxing their way, you know, through environmental. Trying to, you know, deal with the environmental crisis, and obviously that crisis hasn't gone away; it's accelerated. You know, other than cycle tracks, cycle lanes, and this ridiculous notion that you can just remove cars from the road and that's somehow going to fix things and alleviate everyone's problems. But other than that, I certainly didn't see anything in the election that would suggest they were going to do things to be more environmentally friendly or put things in place that didn't involve taxing the shit out of people again, which again, you know, the cars off the road thing is great if you would have the additional public transport in place to deal with that, and we don't have that. Certainly outside Dublin, we don't. I can see them be decimated again with this. If the coalition works out, I can just see them be decimated, and I'm dreading the day that if it's Catherine, that Catherine takes the Taoiseach turn, and we're seeing, I'm getting into speculation now, but I'm just dreading that day. I mean, I remember one of their policies the last time was to do a cobble locking your driveway, or if you wanted
that was Eamon.
And what was it? Tax it, or ban it, or tax it?
Yeah, but you see, I think this time around, if they do get into government, they will be able to engage advisors that can help them tone it down and sharpen their message in a way that's actually workable. Eamon saying that taxing cobblestone driveways, you know, wouldn't sit, but there's a way to work to develop that idea. Okay, maybe there should be another tick or two of that on decorative paving, because it's, you know, it's domestic, it's a style choice, it's a fashion choice, it's a trend choice, it's a personal private citizen's choice. You know, they're now in a position to engage these people, whether they do or not now, and just bring in family members and cousins and lads they were at college with. That's up to them. But they have an opportunity now to engage senior advisors, senior department advisors, and they'll sharpen up those. Like, again, go back to the cobblestones. A senior political strategist and advisor would never have let that, you know, taxing cobblestones out of his minister or out of his boss's mouth. You know, they'd have managed it. They'd have pulled it back and say, no, let's do it this way instead, and it makes more sense. They'd go and get it costed. They'd go and get it valued. They would write up 100 words about it and put it out in a press release. Whereas before he wasn't able to do that. He didn't have the facilities to do that.
And that's fine. I think, but we're on again. We've another financial crisis ahead of us. Talk about history repeating itself. And people for the last number of months have been expecting, are we going to have austerity? And the government, the caretaker government has kind of played that down. There's going to be difficult decisions made. You can't not do something on the tax front, and the Greens are going to be part of that. So
what about Apple's 13 billion? Are they still fighting to not take that 13 billion from Apple?
It's a case
no,
of,
we're not fighting to take it. They're fighting to. The parties are fighting to say we don't need it. It's not due, and the EU are saying that tax is due to Ireland, but the parties are saying no, it's not. So it's in this one.
We'll happily take it though. If
I know. I'll happily
we don't want to be
take it.
seen to take it,
And do you know what annoys me about it is the amount, because cash now is charged negative interest to hold cash. The escrow costs are costing millions a year just to hold the 13 billion in cash.
I mean, Pascal could buy Tim Cook a commiseration point out of that 13 billion if we do get it.
I think it was Noonan that started it, actually.
Yeah.
But it is, it's absurd.
I know it has implications for foreign nationals, or for the multinational companies in Ireland and the signal it sends to them and so on. But like, it seems like such a no-brainer. I mean,
but it's
we also
the
have
scale of the sum.
Yeah, we also have the double whammy,
size.
Derek, with the digital tax that the EU is considering, which Ireland has been very silent on because we don't want it. But other EU countries have been very vocal about introducing it. Trump isn't happy with it. He's promising retaliatory measures. So I mean, that's another thing we have to consider for our FDI. So.
Yeah, but you know what, Neil? They've been talking about this digital tax since Pat Rabbitte was minister.
Now we've got a huge financial hole in Europe, so it's become, these are the things that finance ministers are going to be looking at. And given how the US has handled coronavirus, I would say that would be certainly a catalyst to continue that conversation in a more intensified manner.
Well, do you know what? I'm beginning to feel now our Neil didn't vote Green at all.
I'll drive my diesel car till the cops pull me over, and I'll get a few cows down in the back garden. No,
I know what I'm going. I agree.
I'm only joking, by the way.
One thing is I really disliked with the Green Party in government last time was their bloody energy saving light bulbs. I absolutely that they drove me absolutely mad. The way how slow they are to come on and how dim they are, and
humanity has been
yeah, I know it's a small thing, and I do understand the importance for the environment and stuff like that. But I just hate them. I hate the energy saving light bulbs.
But sure, look at the diesel cars, so Derek, as well. Like we were told, the Greens told us, get those diesels, they're better for us. Then we find out they're
killing us.
There's an alleged cancer thing, and they're going to be banned from the roads within the next 10 years or something to that effect. Anyway, so
for God's sake.
And the push back to petrol. We were very environmentally
I'll have the bus
focused.
pass by then. So.
Well, celebrities don't need bus passes. They're just waved on. But we don't. The environmental issue is being pushed to the back burner. And that's always the way with economics when there's a financial crisis.
Breaking news: half the presses. Live breaking news: Liverpool have won the league. They're champions.
You're going to sing the Liverpool song, so.
Was there fake cheers? Was there fake cheers there?
Well, I'm on this, so I can't cheer. But we're champions after 30 years. 1990. We're now champions. So
it's all right, Derek. If you want to cry, it's okay. This is live. Okay.
It's just done. It's done.
Yeah, well, the You Never Walk Alone club is based here in Crumlin.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of soccer going on around here, actually.
You noticed the silence there, Vanessa. He was all excited until you said Crumlin, and he's like, "Oh, I'm not going to say Crumlin."
I know. Well, that granted enough. You see, when they're over there in the Silicon Valley now with all the Teslas and
Oh, yeah. I got to go on a Tesla last week. Very nice. Really, it lived up to the hype. I'll put it that way.
Now,
It was,
Derek, when you say you
Do you
had a
know who
go,
has
when
one?
you say you had a go, Derek, does that mean you had a few points with the lads and then you saw one unlocked?
You nicked one.
No, we're going to play golf. One of the lads picked me up, and it was it definitely worked the hype, or lived up to the hype.
You're very Silicon Valley.
But you
now,
know
Derek.
who has a Tesla, by the way? Johnny Hamptons.
Of course he does.
I know, of course you do.
I've seen a lot of them on the roads here in Dublin, but maybe that's the next thing the Green Party will push. You know, we should all be driving the Elon Musk car. You know,
I thought Eamon Ryan wanted one car per village. Was that not his proposal that he had recently?
Yeah, he does come out with these flaky, notions, and this is where a proper strategic special advisor will corral all that.
But
I don't think they're going to be wiped out, huh?
I don't like the idea of special advisors and having the message massaged. It hasn't worked out well for Leo. He has like lots of his PR
but you
team.
know what? Do you know what? There, right? Nobody can
honest.
tell Leo anything. I'd say he's impossible to manage. I'd say he just does his own thing all the time. I'd say he's impossible. I'd say there's no telling him anything. He just, you know what I mean? As a boss, I don't think he listens to every, advice at all. I'd say he's a solo artist all the way.
I think people will be forgiven if somebody like is honest and you think you can believe them, and they make a mistake or they have a gaffe and they slip up. But if you think that is they're genuine, like they're being genuine in what they're saying and they're open and honest, I think people can forgive gaffes. I think it's when everything is managed and everything is I don't know. I think it's off-putting for people, and then they become even more highlighted. Like I'm suspicious of these advisors that go in to help parties sell the message or sell the brand.
Well, if that's the person that they've hired, well, that's kind of their own loss, because I mean, if you could find someone who could really help you run the Department of Social Welfare, that would help you make you be a great Minister for Social Welfare, and at least leave a legacy. I don't know why they wouldn't go for that. Like, I know there is a habit of them bringing in pals, and usually ex-journos are jockeying for those jobs. But like, you're only there for a short while, and like, look at justice. Look what the next Minister for Justice could actually do. Could they could achieve. There's just so much, but they just never. Once they get in there, then they're held back, and they just make it all about cementing their own needs rather than the opportunity it gives. Jesus, if I was minister now, if I was Minister for Justice in the morning, I'd tell you I'd have it all sorted.
I'd love to see ministers. I'd love to see ministers going in with a plan, like with their own idea, and say, "Look, this is what I want to happen," and don't tell me it can't happen. Make it happen.
Or tell me how do we get this done? And you'd have the top guys there saying this. Okay, well, who's the best guy we can bring in on a contract for the next 2 years to help us do that? Like in the League of Credit Unions, we're bringing in a guy on contract just to help us to kind of help budget some IT investments over the next 5-10 years, to develop more online banking for our credit unions, and loads of digital, sort of the fintech area. And rather than having our IT team working it, we're bringing in a guy for a year to do it. Okay, I know it's pity and it's small buttons and stuff, but at least you're targeting something that you're going to need in a year or two. And rather than have vendors tell you what you want, have somebody who's on your side.
Yeah, and agree.
But that's just an example.
I agree 100%. Obviously, you get the best advice. Take every advice you can. But my worry is that these advisors it's the spin doctors more so than the advice. Take all the advice, by all means. Get the best experts, get the best advice available, but then make the decision and live or die by your decision. And and stop trying to spin things.
Yeah,
You know,
see,
that's
you've actually identified the problem with the senior advisor. Some of them are actually spin doctors rather than department strategists, or
subject experts.
subject experts, legislation nerds, or they're just spin doctors. So that's why a lot of them are ex-journalists, or they're journalists on sabbatical and stuff like that. They wouldn't be, they wouldn't have MBAs in public administration, or you wouldn't get, like, did Simon Harris when he's in the Department of Health, like, did he hire, people that were from the larger, from the Canadian Health Service, or, postdoctorates from the Mayo Clinic or stuff like this to help him develop a public healthcare service? He didn't. I'm pretty sure he didn't.
I think he's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. I think he got his message on COVID-19 very good. And in terms of, he was on messaging, like, it's not about him, it's about the people. And, he was very appreciative of the efforts the people were making. And, it's we're all in this together, that type of thing. But then he goes on the radio and he says, like, we've COVID-19, we've had 18 other previous COVIDs. And like that sort of basic knowledge shows that he wasn't on top of his health brief. He was on top of the spin message where, I have to appear to be like sympathetic and, like understanding the people's pain. He had that message nice, but he didn't understand his health brief. He didn't understand the basic bit of information about what COVID-19 means. It's COVID-19 because it was discovered in the year 19. There wasn't 18 previous COVIDs.
Yeah.
My 10-year-old daughter knows that.
Which actually I knew it as well. So I was quite impressed with myself. I knew more. That wouldn't be science at all. But
Vanessa, my point is, his brief is health. So he should have expert knowledge on issues to do with health. And then if he misspeaks in terms of delivering the message, that's more forgivable. But he's delivering the message very sympathetically, and yet he's not on top of his brief. That's the thing that irks me and bugs me about Irish politics. Stop the spinning. Get the have the expertise, believe in something, and implement what you believe in.
Are you giving a speech about football, Derek? Because with that trophy in the background, as you're saying all these things and raising your hand, it feels like it's a football speech.
I'd love to lift it up.
Derek, you're just speaking about Department of Health. The two previous ministers for health, to Simon Harris, were doctors, and they actually probably, I don't think they'd have done as well as Simon Harris has done as acting Minister for Health. And if you go through the timeline, actually, viewers, there's the timeline of the COVID-19 nursing homes and care homes timeline is up on Broadsheet. So I'll put into the chat in a minute for you to read. But if you go through that timeline, now it's 14,000 words, but folks, I swear to God, it's an extraordinary document. And if you go through that line by line, I've already like 6-7 pages of notes already on it. You can actually see Simon was actually a bit more direct with the public than Dr. Houlihan was. You could actually, he was a lot more consistent. Now, I know he made that mistake, and we were all laughing here about it, and he should have resigned for that. But now that the timeline has started, and it's all starting to come together, and the different dates and the plugging in of which agency got involved at different times and what agreements were signed at different times, he actually performed better than just him being remembered for making that remark. Now, I'm just saying that's my reading of it, and I think time will be kinder to him.
Okay.
In the long run, the one person that's not coming out good at all is Dr. Houlihan. So you've already had 2 doctors in the Department of Health. and they made it. They had, it was in a worse situation. One handed it over to the other in just as bad a situation, a case, or they did nothing with the place either. So he seems to be coming across quite well. And Barry Desmond, back in the day of the Rainbow, he was a very good minister for health. Mary O'Rourke, she was Minister for Health for a few years, for 2 terms, I think. Maybe being the scientist isn't the way to get it done. And I've worked at the strategic level in hospitals. And there is a hardcore science there. That's, if you're running a hospital, you don't need to know. You don't need to know how to run a drip line.
I'd like my ministers to be the visionary and have the vision of how they want things to work, and to drive that, to make it happen. You don't need to be a doctor to be Minister for Health. Obviously, you don't need to be a teacher to be Minister for Education, but you do need to listen to what the people in those things are telling you. But your vision should be the one that drives it. Each minister goes in should be able to leave their mark on their department. The department shouldn't be the same as it was, unless the department was running very well, unless it was a very well run department and there was no need for any radical change. But I think a minister should have a vision and should be the one driving that change.
I mean, I've asked this before, taking healthcare, for every euro of tax money that goes into healthcare, how's that euro split out? How much of it is wasted through, admin and bureaucracy? How much of it actually goes to paying staff? How much on, resources, whatever you would call it? There's huge barriers to making changes, not just in the health service, but another. I mean, you're more up on education, Derek. But if you want to make fundamental changes, I've got friends and people I know who are in the medical profession in other countries who are familiar with the Irish system or who worked here as well. And one common thing that they mention is bureaucracy and getting things done. How much of a change can a minister make, or can somebody senior make, without pushback from unions and people and the dragging of heels? I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's a doctor. Do we need to be appointing, highly skilled negotiators, or voting for politicians who are highly skilled negotiators who get it done? Again, that's what it really feels like to me. I mean, I wrote before about my mother's experience when she had her aneurysm in the hospital sector, and the things that we usually hear about weren't the challenges that she faced. There was systematic failures, there was people errors, and she went back for her follow-up, and that wasn't issue-free either. There was a number, in fact, there was some concerning things that emerged, but thankfully all worked out okay. But still, it all adds up, and these aren't, down to us needing to hire more doctors and nurses. These are, issues with the system end to end, the system that people work within. I just can't see. It doesn't really. Feels like in the short time I'm on this planet of 26 years, it feels like every minister that's been there has a desire to make change and just gets worn out, just gets beaten down by the lack of, ability to make change. Maybe I'm speaking way off the mark, but that's how it's perceived to me. I mean, look at coronavirus as a perfect example. We still don't have this contact tracing app, which we're going into phase 3 on Monday. Where Europe has opened up its borders. July 9th is when we're going to start see opening up. I mean, that contact tracing app is going to be essential. Being able to turn around tests in a shorter period of time. Was it today or yesterday, Vanessa? You might know, in the Dáil or one of the committees. About how many days we should be turning around these tests, and
Does Germany have a contact? Germany has a contact tracing app. I saw something with that in the House of Commons yesterday or today, this morning maybe. Boris Johnson said no country in the world has a contact tracing app, and his opponent said Germany has, and they've done 12 million tests. So if Germany has the app, I don't see why we all couldn't use it.
Well, and
I'd love to be a fly on the wall when Donald Trump brings up Angela Merkel. to ask her. Grab her by the.
Made on an iPhone.
In fairness, the women are playing a blinder. The women politicians, the women leaders are playing a blinder.
Yeah.
Just thought I'd say that out there, folks.
Do you not think Leo has been playing a blinder? I'm just asking the question now, Vanessa. Do you think Leo's been playing a blinder? Should he be in that same category? I felt a little peeved that there was a meme going around of all the female leaders around, and I felt a little bit peeved that Leo wasn't on that list. Sorry, not
with the women.
Yeah, because we had considered him to have done a fantastic job in his reaction, his handling. His speeches were, much more filled with hope and support compared to Boris and the Donald. Should he have been on that list? Was that pandering to gender for the sake of it, or were we excluding some other leaders?
I think history will tell when all this settles down in the next 18 months, 2 years. I think
What? 18 months to 2 years?
Well, yeah, this is still going to be, it is going to be that length of time, because by the time you kind of have all the second surge deaths and that all quantified and recorded and quantified, tested and studied, and then the cost of the shutdowns and the industry rebooting and the cost of the economy rebooting and the industries that have been lost and those that have been hit the impact is too great to recover from, like to say airline industry. I think when all that comes back, I think it'll look back, and I think they will look at Germany, they will look at New Zealand, in particular, I think, as having managed so well, so competently. They didn't second guess, they didn't wait for advice, they totally trusted their instincts. And even if and particularly in New Zealand, even if there were unpopular decisions, she didn't think twice. They're not interested in polls. They weren't interested in image. They weren't interested in photo ops in hotel, the converted hospitals or anything like that. I think when the book of this is written, I think people will see that they were outstanding. They really were. Whether that's the story of this pandemic or whether it's going to be Trump and Boris, I don't know. Shall we know? We'll know soon enough, I suppose.
Leo's at 70% in the polls. Is that correct?
Neil is, or Leo?
Leo.
But I think that's in satisfaction, just him versus Micheál Martin, Mary. I think that's not necessarily a 70% for Fine Gael in the polls. I think it's more satisfaction rating. Yeah, I think, during this time with the lockdown, he actually did very well. Because you would get fed up if it was Micheál Martin that was delivering those speeches. You couldn't listen to him. You'd actually, people wouldn't be arse paying attention. And the potential is he's our next Taoiseach. But he's not endearing. He won't endear people to listen to him. So maybe it was timing that it worked that it was still Leo, And
Leo's recent speeches with his movie quotes and his pandering to the Sean Austin Mean Girls thing. Is that really what we want? Is that,
That's bad advice. That's bad. That's bad advice. And it would sort of beckon back to the fact that his first strategic appointment was a PR guru.
It's about the thing I was saying earlier on about being genuine. People like honesty and like, it's one of the reasons why Trump is popular and has the popularity he has, is people view him as speaking his mind, even though he says 10 things so that like he can use one of the 10 things the next day and he contradict himself in what he's saying. People view him as being like he's a straight chewer, a straight talker. Probably similar with Johnson in England. People view him rightly or wrongly as a straight talker. I don't think Johnson's a straight talker, but there's a perception that he's a straight talker. And I think
Well,
we do need people to be like actually speak their mind a little bit more, you know,
well, I don't
not try
believe.
to be so polished.
Yeah, but Derek, I don't believe Boris speaks his mind at all. I just think he's just not
Oh,
ours
I agree.
time to time. And
I agree, but
I wouldn't compare. I know there's sort of it's an easy thing to say and put Boris and Trump together. You know, they're both white-skinned, privileged. You know, very very middle class, privately educated. You know, the full silver spoon treatment. They both have a history of multiple relationships. You know, blended families. I would not. It's a big mistake for people to put them to measure them against each other, because Boris, whether you like him or not, is actually brilliant. And I know somebody who was in college with them, and they said that he is incredibly intelligent and brilliant. He's lazy, and he gets bored very easily. He's not interested in the smaller details. He's interested in the big show. Like I suspect he'll just get fed up of being PM and he'll go off and do something else. And the same way he got fed up of being an editor, got fed up of being a writer, got fed up of being an editor. He then ran for mayor in London. He got fed up with that, and then he did this, and then he did that. I really don't see him sticking it out. I think he'll have packed it in before he's lost. He can literally sit on his hand for 5 years now with that massive majority he has.
I agree with you.
And his special advisor was not a pal, was not a relative. Now he's a very, this guy Dominic Cummings, is a very controversial person. And he's not everyone's cup of tea, and like there is something very distasteful about him, but he's there for a reason. Is because he knows how to run a country, not to make sure his guy looks good.
I agree with you.
Photographs.
I agree with you that comparing Trump and Johnson is a mistake, and it's too simple. It's too simplistic a thing, just based on their physical appearance and their upbringing and so on. I think Trump is just has no thought process. He just is. That's just him. He's not playing 8-dimensional chess as some Republicans like to claim. Trump just reacts. Trump is far more more cunning and more devious than Trump could ever be. Johnson is far more better read. I don't agree with you about he's intelligent. I think his intelligence is quite overstated. I remember seeing something, he broke into Latin on a TV show, and it sounded like really impressive. But when they actually translate what he was saying, it was just a pile of words. It wasn't gibberish. Like actual. It was just gibberish. Just gibberish. Yeah. So I think Johnson is well read, no doubt. He writes well, but often vile stuff. But so I think he is a lot smarter. He worked for the number 10 in a way that he had to plot and scheme and wait his time to get his opportunity. Trump was just much more of a whirlwind, just more of a force, just a force of nature, and Johnson hasn't got that force of nature. Johnson's his first speech as prime minister was actually a very nice speech, and he set out nearly a Labour agenda for the country, and coming from somebody who had served so long as a Conservative minister. But so like you should watch his first speech. It's remarkable what he was promising in terms of the NHS, an increase in nurses, an increase in teachers, an increase in guards, and an increase in their pay. It was incredible to listen to, but no intention of following through on it. So I think he's far more devious than Trump. Trump picture, and if Trump wins re-election, it is because of that like whirlwind force that he is.
But I think that Trump doesn't talk down when he's speaking to the cameras. He actually doesn't talk. Now he's a bit silly, and he's a bit kind of, you're a nasty person, you're a terrible person, when he's addressing somebody personally. But when he's doing the big speech, they're able to follow every word. You know, he doesn't talk down to people at all. Whereas if you go back to this tendency for Theresa May to be very to talk over people's heads, you know. And if you look at when Theresa May, when she survived the first challenge to the leadership, and when Gove stabbed Boris in the back in that original that earlier leadership challenge, she actually did Boris a huge favor by making him foreign secretary and literally telling Gove to go up himself. You know,
Yeah.
So Gove then spent the next 18 months just getting pissed around Westminster. Where I what I would really love to know, and I suppose I know we're going to have this again and again, and maybe when John comes in we could ask him this now, right? Where and what will Westminster look like after a year into Brexit? You know, will it be as sort of the carnage we saw in the last days of Theresa May's premiership, or you know, will they turn on Boris? Will Boris just say, "I'm fed up," you know, like they are starting to realize that they were sold a pup, you know, that all the lights, like Boris's dad is moving to France. Rees-Mogg's business is registered here, as far as I know. Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like they're all kind of getting out. They're all covering their own ass. But you know, then you have the number of deaths in the UK from COVID. Like they were completely misinformed, I suppose, you know, but what they should expect and what they can expect. So I'd love to know what we think is going to be like there in a year's time or 2 years' time. Maybe Boris will be more like Trump then.
Yeah, I think it's going to be deeply divided, like because the country was split pretty much down the middle of whether to stay or go, and I think opinions will harden. I think that's unfortunately the way it's going to go.
Yeah, but you know, Derek, since then,
I don't see any unifier emerging either in Britain or in the United States. There's nobody emerging who is like going to pull the countries together, you know, or hold that middle ground, that strong center, you know. I don't see anybody. There's nobody. Nobody has put their hand up. Nobody has stood up yet. That makes me think that here's the great hope for the future. You know, I think a lot of people, you know, with
there's
their
an
social media,
opportunity for the Irish diplomatic service, really, because we are tied to the UK and to America no matter what happens. No matter what happens in the EU, if Pascal gets this big job and Phil Hogan gets this big job with the WHO, or sorry, the WTO, like we are still intrinsically connected to the UK and to America by virtue of the generations that have embedded there, you know. So there will always be a relationship between between Ireland and America and Ireland and the UK that the EU will never have, that Russia will never have, that China will never have, you know. So that be interesting to see who becomes the go-between in that relationship and that brokerage over the next 2 years. I suppose obviously you have to wait to see who the next president is in the US, but that would be a role now that could actually decide what it's going to be like for Ireland in the next 50 years.
Yeah.
There you go, Neil.
That's
That's the
interesting.
job. I'm available, folks.
Well, Mr. Ryan said he'd be here to do the papers. It must be a delay on the papers, but I did want to briefly touch on something else that broke in, I won't say in the news, but social media was on fire over the weekend with the, I believe, her hashtag. There was some scandals that had emerged in the comedy scene, which spilled over into the music scene and entertainment scene in general. And quite a number of entertainers were named as abusers and rapists. Now, we're not going to mention any names. I don't think we can. But it's all up on Twitter for anyone who's not following. But it's been very interesting. The reason I wanted to bring it up is because we've reached the same wall again in terms of the Irish defamation laws. And there's one person on Twitter who was putting a GoFundMe together as a fund for people who do want to name their rapist and abuser and have a fund there in case. Actually, Sean, I think it's somebody was being sued, a civil case for naming their abuser.
Yeah, they went to court, and now the victim is being sued by her attacker.
The alleged attacker, yeah.
For defamation, yeah. Like this, lads, you know, I saw a tweet following on from that at the weekend. Somebody who has been through the court system here, lady's now living in the UK, and she had been through the courts. She had CCTV footage as well of the assault, and it went nowhere. And she actually said, the courts are not safe for women in Ireland. And you have to, it's very hard not to agree with her. If she goes into court with CCTV footage of the assault, and nothing is no penalty at all for the perpetrator. I mean, and then you have to look at, like, what has the Minister for Justice been doing? You know, like, why aren't the courts safe for women? Why aren't they getting the protection they need? Why aren't, you know, perpetrators getting decent sentences or off on technicalities? Because ultimately that's what happens. Technicality. Like, why doesn't Charlie Flanagan say something about this? It's not a word out.
It's unusual because and you know, this that we're talking about other ministers needing to take action, but this is one that's been around since the dawn of laws in this country, and
but it hasn't really, Neil, like, because you've had very few convictions. You know, it's not that long ago you had your first marital rape conviction.
Well, this is what I mean, and
you know, so it hasn't necessarily been around for years.
But in terms of the issue with defamation, the issue with, you know, the successes or the lack of success in the court, you know, where's the impetus to change? Where's the roadblocks? You know, certainly Twitter was on fire with this discussion over the last few days, and a number of, you know, we'll say well-known people got involved in the discussion about this particular issue. So where's the roadblock? Why isn't it being changed?
It's very, very difficult. You know, it's a very, very difficult subject. You know, in like, I don't know. I think it's very, very. It's almost impossible for a woman to go to court and to make a case. The amount of things that they have to go through, or any victim of sexual abuse or sexual violence. But in the criminal system, there is this concept of innocent until proven guilty, and like that's an important fundamental thing to our legal, fundamental plank to our legal system, that people have this entitlement to be viewed as innocent until they are proven guilty. And how do you weigh that up? Like, you know, a victim who has suffered horrendously, and yet this plank of law that needs to be there, that's vital to our way of life. There's I don't know how to marry those two. How to make it easier for somebody, how to make it easier for victims, and yet retain this central tenet of the law that you're innocent until proven guilty. I think it's very challenging, and it's just fraught with danger all over the place. And I don't want to sound that as if I'm sympathetic to victims. My sympathetic to victims, really, like it's. But I don't know. I have no answers. I don't know enough. I can't speak about this to any more than that. Just that there is that notion of innocent until proven guilty.
There is. But the one thing we've done this before. We did this just during the Belfast, the Belfast rape trial with the rugby players. We did that quite extensively because for other reasons I won't go into. And then we also did the situation in the number of cases that cropped up through the term of Michael Colgan when he was the director of the Gate. And actually after we did that particular show, there was some people had contacted John privately about some of the things that we had opened up on. And there's the Paddies, and I think this goes back centuries with us, right? We have this tendency to turn the blind eye or watch from behind closed doors or peering through curtains. And the thing is ultimately is that people need to come forward and say their story, even if it's not a conviction, or they pursue it. They need to tell somebody their story, because that will encourage more and more people to tell their story, and the story is shared, and it actually makes it safer for men and women. It's not just women that are getting assaulted. Fluffy was assaulted badly. Now, the person who attempted it came off the worst, from what I understand. But you see, there are communities that would not come forward. And it has to be, the environment, first of all, has to be safe for people to come forward and tell the story, and not be afraid to tell the story so that other people are aware. People know that, they know the environment that they're in. I don't think, and I tweeted this, I don't think we should allow the next Minister for Justice to not complete their term and not have at least done something about this, because in the last term of government, we've had 2 Ministers for Justice, and we've had a female Garda Commissioner for the first time ever. And you still cannot get a conviction where a woman feels safe, or the victim feels safe, or they haven't been exploited within the courthouse. Because you could go back to Listowel there a while back. Now, I know it was a few years ago, but the man was convicted, and yet they still did this parade of handshaking in front of the victim. They still humiliated the victim. So we need to look at that and how we report these cases. But as long as people pretend it didn't happen, or turn the blind eye, or they know there's a story about this person, and they know this, they need to have confidence in that story. And the lady last week, Elaine, said something about take your first answer. Just take the first answer. And there's an awful lot of use in that. We need to pretend this doesn't happen. And it goes back to the stories of the single, the babies before outside marriage. It goes back further than that. This secrecy that we have just developed within our DNAs, that it's easier to say nothing. And in one way, It probably is. At the moment, it's easier to say nothing, but we need to get over that. We just need to get over that and just share. And as long as you tell your story, these things like I believe her, what they're doing is telling you, we have your back. So come forward. If you don't get the conviction, at least the word is out there and the word is just that bit safer for the next person that encounters the abuser.
I think the really sad thing about Ireland is an awful lot of sexual abuse took place within families or takes place within families. I know Vincent Brown was very strong on this a few years ago to say that they're like, and you're more likely to be assaulted by somebody that you know. We know all these things, right? That most sexual assaults are by somebody known to the victim, and problem in Ireland is where I think why there's a lot of secrecy around it is because a lot of it has happened within the family unit, whether it's uncles or brothers or whatever, you know, and I mean, I suppose that's a very difficult thing to do to, to speak up. It's a very difficult thing to speak up on anyway, despite Me Too hashtags or I Believe Her hashtags. For the person, it's so difficult to come forward, and I imagine it's doubly difficult to come forward when it's within your family, because you want to protect your families and so on, and obviously the thing to protect your family is to come forward and expose the abuser. But it's easy to say that and sit behind my hashtag, but to actually do it as a person, it's very, very, you have to be very, very brave, really brave.
Do you know that I don't think culturally and emotionally we've shook off this fear of shame. You know, yeah. I think we're still struggling with that. It's certainly very different to the 80s, the 70s and 80s, and certainly when I was a teenager in the 80s. You know, it is very different now, and that, thank Christ, you know. But I'm not sure we've shook that off yet, because, you know, for these stories to appear, some of these were years ago. And there was there's one person named, and there's loads of women coming forward. You know, seriously, Neela, you probably know some of these performers. And the only first time I have heard about some of these performers was this thing that happened over the weekend, or certainly that broke over the weekend, and it's very sad in a way that, you know, this is how we learn stuff. I don't know, folks. I'm glad. I'll tell you one thing. I'm glad there was no social media around when I was young.
On that note, I believe John is trying to join us. We do have papers, so what I'll do is I will stall for time and share my screen in the hope that John joins in between. So now,
yes.
Just something I wanted to get in. You know, Hamilton the musical is coming to Disney Plus on July the 3rd.
I'll tell you, that's I'm so excited there.
Just I'd say Neil is thrilled. All 7 hours.
Just when you couldn't top the liver, when you couldn't top the liver.
Neil, you're like Hamilton.
But you know, the teenager reckons it is the best musical of all time. And I said to her, "You made it better than Calamity Jane." She said, "Yeah."
It's better than Les Mis. It is unbelievable. It's from start to finish. So anyway, I just said remind you. You should familiarize yourself with some of the tunes before you watch it, and learn the story a little bit. And it's fantastic.
Julie noted. Julie noted.
The Irish guy Twitter is tweeting songs each day, so you can just like songs from YouTube. So from the musical. So have a look at the Irish guy Twitter handle, and you'll get your introduction to Hamilton, Neil.
It's a shameless.
Oh no, the
shameless
teenager here is into music, so I don't want any more introductions to it. Thank you. How long is it anyway? It's about 6 hours, isn't it?
Oh, it's not, no.
And he wasn't even a US president, Derek, was he?
Well, there you go. There you go. But he's on the $10. He's the $10 founding father.
Yeah, but wasn't a president.
Oh,
it is actually a highly acclaimed show. Far better than that nonsense you were watching on the telly there tonight, Derek.
Celebrations are all happening now, you know.
He's dying to get out. He's dying to go.
Is there a Liverpool supporters club anywhere over there?
There's a pub down in San Jose called O'Flaherty's, and that's a big Liverpool gathering. There's the Silicon Valley Reds meet there, and it's
how well I knew there'd be a Liverpool supporters club out there. The Silicon Valley Reds.
Silicon Valley Reds, yeah.
Bag of sados. Meeting them out there.
The two things that bring me joy.
Can you do the Liverpool accent?
Oh, I can barely do my own accent, Vanessa. You know, all right.
This is what we're doing now. We're waiting for John. Impressions. Right, I'm gonna.
The most expensive round of drink I ever bought was for a load of Liverpool people last year. We were at a do, and we were there. The big credit union people were saying, the most expensive round of drink I've had, and it must have come to about $200 anyway. And we were all so pissed we couldn't even drink it. Anyway, it's my Liverpool story.
I'm going to share my screen now because I want to go.
I have two questions. Neil. Number one, why do you not like Hamilton? And Vanessa, you said last week you ran for election.
Oh yeah.
Who did you stand for? Who did you run for?
No, I said I put myself on a ballot. Last year, actually no. Oh, Jesus, I'll be running again now shortly. Is there somebody there stuck their face into the?
My daughter, Leah. Do you want to say what?
Suddenly, I thought there was a crowd at the match.
That's the San Jose, Liverpool
supporters. She's not in her jersey. No, I put myself on the ballot to run for the board of the Irish League of Credit Unions, and I did it last minute. And I wasn't expecting to get elected because you kind of have to do the rounds for years, the chapters and all the old fellas, and the thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't do any of that. I sent out an email to about 5-6 people, and I ended up getting elected. And I didn't even go to the count because I wasn't thinking of doing it. And I know it's a bit mean-spirited now, but everyone knows this. I only put myself on the ballot to piss somebody off because I knew if he saw my face on the ballot, he'd fucking go green. And so I only did it. And friends were saying, "Oh, geez, Vanessa, I believe it when I see your face on the ballot." And I was always giving out about them, so I just did it. And then I kind of came up between trying to piss your man off and saying, "Look, I'm always complaining. I just do it." And I did it. And then I did nothing else really. I sent out an email. I did no canvassing. I did no ringing around to ask to meet the boards of the credit unions. Did none of that. And
you didn't do the chicken dinner circuit?
No, I didn't. And then, and actually 1 or 2 people said it would have been nice if you'd come over to see us. And they're actually in this area as well, this chapter area. So I probably should have, but sure, we'll figure it out the next time. And I didn't even go to the count, right, in the Clarendon Hotel. I was over in Tuam with Kevin. You met Kevin on the show here before with the Tuam Survivors AGM. I said, I might as well go over there, whereas I've some use. I can't influence the ballot here. So then suddenly I was getting text messages. Jesus, such and such, somebody, and then I found out I got elected. And then about 3 weeks after that, there was a High Court injunction then to stop me joining the board. But we got away with that. It's a big story. Hey, John.
Hello.
Hi, John.
Hey, John.
Hey, Derek. Hey, Neil. Hello, Vanessa.
Loving
Hi,
the kitchen
John.
backdrop, John. Loving the kitchen backdrop.
What is his kitchen?
Derek, yours is a backdrop, isn't it?
Yes, that's the Premier League trophy. Liverpool are champions, John.
Liverpool have won, haven't
Liverpool.
they?
Yes.
Well, congratulations.
John was watching it. That's where he was. I promise you, John was glued.
Right, let me get the papers up for you, John.
Oh, right, yeah. Were you talking about the Greens and coalition?
We
You're
did.
watching.
Do you want to add to it, John?
Oh, no, just the front page story on the Examiner. They've offered Ian Ryan an enlarged climate ministry and fancy pants and lollipops and whatever he wants.
Yeah, what does that mean? An enlarged ministry? Is it just more money, or?
Well, I think it's to sway the Green vote.
I just wonder what it means. Like an enlarged ministry, is it like? Is it two former departments or?
Yeah, it was an attachment to it before. It was like a junior climate was a junior ministry attached to. I think it was not environment, maybe enterprise. I'll check it out. Actually, it wasn't a full ministry.
Yeah, it was something on climate action. It was Richard Bruton. It was environment.
No.
Sure. Oh.
Owen Murphy is Minister for the Environment.
Oh, no, it's what's Richard Bruton's ministry?
Communications, wasn't it? I'll check.
Yeah, I'm a little bit confused. So anyway, if this deal is approved, probably tomorrow, Eamon Ryan will be given this enlarged climate ministry. So, and it looks like they're going to hang on to children. Minister for Children is going to stay, or the children's portfolio is going to sort of remain. Does anybody want to ask anything on that? Or?
No, but that is it's communications and climate action is Richard Bruton.
Sorry.
Yeah. This is Catherine Sapone's old job then. The Greens are going to get.
Yeah, the plan was to remove children, and I think the Greens have managed, or at least there was an outcry anyway, for it to be or not the decision to be reversed, but it hasn't really been reversed. It's sort of amalgamated into something else, that ministry. Sorry, Vanessa.
No, I was just saying, John, would you agree that the programme for government is actually who get what ministry, and not this document that they're flying back and forth and putting in front of their members?
Well, yeah, I guess. I mean, as long as Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael have finance and the main portfolios, I don't think they're really concerned about the junior. Not that these are junior, but. So I imagine once you've got finance and all that sorted and justice, it's not really the rest is kind of irrelevant to those parties, certainly to Fine Gael.
Are we going to make some predictions? I'm going to say Michael McGrath finance. I think Harris is going to stay in health. Okay. Anybody else want to do a?
Well, are we not getting a little bit ahead of ourselves? Do you think the deal will be approved?
I do.
By the Greens?
Well, I do. I hope it is as well. But sure.
Well, they need 66% of the vote.
Aren't they getting a little Brucey bonus for if they vote for it?
Well, this is their Brucey bonus, the enlarged climate ministry.
No, but isn't there a financial incentive as well if it's voted on? Was that not something? Did we talk about that last week, or am I getting deja vu?
No, there is the councillors are getting an extra 8,000 a year. There's a promise to up the salary of councillors by 8,000 a year.
Oh, okay.
And that was being flagged as a bribe because the councillors all have a vote.
Right.
I think it's going to go through, John.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you think so, Neil and Derek?
If that wasn't in the mix, I would have said no. But 8,000 is if they get in, it's just.
Yeah, well, that's Green councillors, but I think the new members, they've 3,000, maybe 200 members, the Green Party, which doesn't actually sound like a lot, but is quite a lot, apparently.
Yeah, I think 66% is a high threshold to get across, and a lot of people, young idealistic people.
Well, a lot of the Greta Thunberg sort of wave, would feel that this doesn't go far enough at all, and also, probably are offended by propping up Fine Gael for a further 5 years.
Yeah.
Sorry, will I go on?
Yeah, we move on. Anything else on the Examiner, John, that's jumping out at you?
Well, just the human trafficking effort slipping, which is unusual because in America they've ramped up their efforts on human trafficking. Ireland's efforts to eliminate human trafficking have been downgraded this year, according to report by the U.S. Department of State. Forced labour is growing in Ireland, the report noted, with victims often found working in the restaurant industry, waste management, fishing, seasonal agriculture, car washing service, or as domestic workers such as au pairs, but also sex workers as well. And anyway, will I go on? Will I go down?
Yeah, let's go down.
Vanessa, did you want to say anything in Cork that the council cut developments to? Sorry, it was just on the front of the Examiner, Neil.
Sorry.
No. They're going to give developers a break to encourage builds in Cork City. So. I can't hear Vanessa.
Vanessa's on mute.
And I normally never have a problem hearing her.
Sorry, I beg your pardon. I just was the FAI thing to the Gardaí. Now, the development thing is a good thing. All the other councils will follow suit, so that's a good thing. But the FAI review to the Gardaí, John, because I would have thought we'd have had a council by now from them.
Okay, no, I was just worried. We're wondering in terms of the Green, maybe Dan Boyle would be the person to ask. I mean, they're cutting a 50% reduction in the charge, in development charges. That's a lot, half the. And I think there's some controversy in Cork anyway, isn't there, with some of the new builds or the new developments? No. Sorry.
I think we need to get Dan. We'll get Dan in next week. We could have Cork Week next week. We'd have Dan and Ty Daly.
Yeah.
Oh, great, I get the week off, so great.
Okay. And then the Echo is saying that a deal decision today, approval would see Martin obviously at Cork. The first Cork Taoiseach. Okay. Although Bertie Ahern was Cork.
Well, yeah, but he used to say he was from other places as well, didn't he?
There was a bit of that, but I think Manan Bridge near Monmouth down in Cork is where his people are from, some of his people. Oh, Liverpool fan, Derek?
Yes. You ever walk alone?
He had his jersey off, John. He had his jersey off him earlier on, and he was going around, doing the victory.
John, I was 14 the last time they won, So I've had 30 years of getting lots of abuse from Man United fans. So it's nice.
Derek,
it's nice to.
Yeah, I didn't realise it was 30 years.
30 years, 1990. I was 14.
We won the double that year, Derek.
My God.
Cork, yeah. Teddy McCarthy.
That's right.
Oh, Derek, that's amazing because I was a Manchester United fan growing up, and when Alex Ferguson joined, we were like bottom of the first division. And Liverpool, whom my older brother supported, were just 20 years of just total dominance.
Dominance, yeah.
Every match of the day they were on, they were just like, like Brazil.
Yeah.
And then I kind of turned off football, and when I turned off football, Ferguson, then Liverpool went down.
Yeah.
So I was,
I know.
30 years you've had to wait for that.
30 years of pain with some bright moments.
God love you.
We had 2 Champions Leagues in the meantime and a number of other trophies, but this was the holy grail, and the monkey's off the back now, So we're back, baby.
So that match against Arsenal when they won on the last minute, that was as close as you've come in 30 years since today.
That was the year before. That was 89, where Arsenal pipped them in the last day of the season, and they finished second 5 times, I think. So we've been close. Last year we 97 points, which is a record total not to win the league. Normally, if you get like 86 or definitely if you get 90 points, you'll win the league. But we'd 97 last year, and Man City had 98. So that was close. And then of course there was the famous year when Brendan Rodgers was manager, when Steven Gerrard, our talisman, our hero for more than a decade, had his famous slip against Chelsea, and Chelsea beat us 2-0 and stopped us winning the league that season. So 13-14, I think it was. But yeah, we've got close, but it's nice to finally get over the line,
What was the match that Liverpool won with the corner, the sort of late corner?
Oh, against Barcelona last year.
Barcelona, yeah. I'm in Barcelona, so it's like.
That's another.
Sorry, I don't want to take the.
No, I'm
what's a lifetime
fascinated
moment?
with John discussing soccer. I'm beginning to wonder, has Barcelona turned you? Is there other stuff you went?
Yeah, it's different enough into the. Yeah, and the main story then is on the British papers is the Corbyn's ally, who's going to be leader, the late Rebecca Long Bailey, has been fired by Keir Starmer. She was his leadership rival a few weeks ago.
Yeah, but Keir Starmer wants to bring the party back to the Tony Blair years, I think, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, certainly away from the Corbyn years and anything like it, I guess. I'm not sure this is going to help them though, because again, like Greens, they've all their membership now is this new Corbynista membership, who are radical, and I know that they've changed the rules about how the leaders are appointed, but they have it's not like there's some sort of like crazy faction. They're real force in there, I mean, it's not like Tony Foote and Michael, or Michael Foote and Tony Benn, and it seemed, not as big a threat.
But you see, John, when we were talking about this earlier, I was kind of flagging that, time will tell whether all these activists stick it out in politics, even at local level. Let them go through, the sort of the old dogs have been doing this in Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael and Labour since they were teenagers, and they're now in their 60s. The sort of the flaming might die down, and they might get out of politics. I mean, they're all new. Like the majority of that party numbered 3,200. Most of them have come in on the green wave. They weren't there through the hard years with Dan. Even the years when they only had one TD, or the years when there was no TD. There was a guy, Garland, before that.
Well, this is it. I mean, who will Neil Martin and Fiona and Varadkar be dealing with? Are they going to be dealing with a weak leader who's kind of hostage to the radical wing, or what? Sorry,
I wouldn't think Anne-Marie Martin is radical.
what's interesting over here as well in the Democratic Party, there seems to be a drift to the left as well. A lot of Joe AOC, Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, and the squad of new congresswomen or congresspeople that got elected the last time. But now what's happening for the election this year is some sitting Democrats are being primaried and are losing their seats to the more radical people who would be in AOC's camp. So people who had big fundraising campaigns going. I'm thinking there's a lady in Kentucky, Amy McGrath, who was seen as being a big chance of taking Mitch McConnell's seat, but she's actually looking like she's not going to win the Democratic primary. And she had raised 41 million, and her challenger, a fella called Booker, he'd only raised 1 million, and yet he seems to be well ahead of her as the counting is coming in. So that sort of drift to more radical views, it seems to be happening across the board.
Yeah, they're also getting associated with the riots and the protests, so that's not going to help them definitely in places like, well, the blue states that they want to get back, the traditional blue states, you know, Philadelphia and Michigan and places like that. I don't think, I mean, the stuff in Seattle hasn't played well at all, and the defund the police is kind of,
We've lost
have I gone?
No, you're here.
You're
Sorry, you look, I'm
the newspaper window closed.
I'll finish the papers. So don't Neil, if you can get them back up, I'll just pass through them. So it's just Rebecca Long Bailey is fired by Keir Starmer and
PM to build air bridges with all EU. But you Brexit exited. What's that going to do?
Have you talked about the people on beaches and stuff?
No. What's it like there, John? Because you're quite near a beach.
Well, I haven't actually. I mean, the beach is fairly close, but I haven't been there. There's many people walking up there. I think this is Bournemouth.
Bournemouth, yeah.
But again, I know that really looks like a lot of people, but from above, it really does look like a lot of people as well.
But when you're walking amongst them, it doesn't feel as crowded as that. Like
I think there's been a lot of pictures.
There's a front perspective, slight optical illusion going on there, and that picture there. Aaron took some pictures in Bray this evening, and it was fairly mobbed for Bray on a Thursday night, you know. Okay, do you want to? Where isn't Wally is quite a good headline.
There she is again. Starmer
Long Bailey.
I think Keir Starmer is there for the long run, though.
Yeah, maybe.
I think he's the real deal. I tell you, if he was over here, I'd vote for him.
Yeah, certainly they've the anti-Semitic charge is stuck with people like Rebecca Long Bailey, and I mean they're going to root all that out. But I mean, whether people think that's fair or unfair. I mean,
yeah, I think. Do you know when we were chatting the other day and we were talking about how it's all about splitting people up now into different camps.
Yeah, well,
is there a feeling of that here?
Oh, here in Ireland?
No, with the Labour Party in the UK, like it's easier to run a campaign when you can split people up and just target what they're anti this or their hates straight there.
Labour Labour in Britain are such a mad, wide, broad church, even probably the broadest party if you think about it in certainly the British in Britain.
Yeah, I could see that.
Where you could have
have to go. Sorry, I have to bring my daughter.
Oh, Derek, Jesus, no. Derek, I'm done. No, Derek, Derek, I intruded on you guys, so.
No. I have to bring her. I have to bring her to her swimming lesson. So I'll sign off and I'll see you next week. Okay.
Okay, Derek. Well, I hope I haven't bored you off.
Okay. No. Absolutely not. No.
This is like when Neil had to look after his doggy. You know.
Up the Reds, Derek.
Go on, the Reds.
You never walk alone.
Good to see everybody. See you guys.
Yeah, Derek.
See you later, Derek. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, look,
I never actually put that together about how broad, you could say, church the British Labour Party is.
Well, yeah. I mean, I worked in North London in the 80s and into the early 90s, and it was Corbyn versus New Labour were on the rise then. The New Labour were very Jewish, so there was obviously a kind of a mark set then. We talk about the anti-Semitic charge doing for Jeremy Corbyn and doing for Rebecca Long Bailey. I think it was probably sown back then as well. Like Corbyn and his team, his Islington lot came into Haringey to take over Haringey effectively. And they were pushed back then eventually by Barbara Roach and Toby Harris, who were New Labour. And they were, they happened to be Jewish as well, but there were a lot of Jewish people there, New Labour people. So I'm sure that didn't help whatever Corbyn's issue seems to be with, and Rebecca Long Bailey's, and the party has in itself the issue that they never really resolved it. And I'm sure that was the roots of some of the problems. Sorry if I'm boring you.
No.
Okay.
No, this is one of the things I was I'm glad we're getting back to, because I think Keir Starmer has great potential to sort of consolidate the left in the UK, whereas we've no there's nobody really standing out here in Ireland to try and consolidate the left. Well, maybe Mary Lou can do it, but somehow I don't think that's the plan. I
don't think Keir Starmer is going to galvanise any. I mean, he's not left wing by any measurement. Certainly today's measurement. I mean, Tony Blair was never. They had their conflicts. The loony left, and the New Labour militant tendency in the 80s was so vicious that it turned, a bit like Pat Rabbitte and people, it turned former kind of Marxists effectively into authoritarian neoliberal types, to the point where they're more so than like Blair's was more than even Cameron was, certainly more than Gordon Brown was.
Yeah, but you see, I think there will be an anything but the Tories and anything but Brexit party or Brexiteers. I think that's where he'll actually become stronger. It's not so much you were saying that the Labour Party is just so fractured. I actually think he's got the capacity to be the answer for everyone that doesn't want Brexit and that's just sick of Boris. That's what I think. Because I mean, Lib Dems just completely missed the opportunity. Anyway, listen to where no one should be talking here about politics. It's the state of our crowd. Jesus.
Yeah. Well, I hope I didn't push Derek off there.
No. Derek, he does this swimming thing every week. But I think on that note, thanks. I'm going to do your bit, John, that you used to do. Thanks everyone for joining us this week. I don't think anyone's going to be watching next week because they're all going to be in the pub or having their €9 meals. So we may not have any.
We'll be getting our hair done because we've waited so long to go to the hairdressers and go to the beauticians.
I think you've both done very well on the hair front. I just want to say, to anybody watching this, there's a good timeline on the nursing home thing on the site yesterday. So please give it a look. Okay, well, I'll head.
Well, no, we plugged it already. We put it into the chat with John. We'll need to kind of go back into it, I think.
Yeah, it's not going away.
Well, it's
I think we're going to find out more as well. Do you notice when you were building it, there was kind of information coming about that was like 3 weeks earlier, but it was only released 4 weeks later or something. And do you know, there was definitely gaps in the timekeeping.
Oh yeah. I mean, this is when this unravels, you know. That's why I'm kind of curious today. There was Leo Varadkar, Pascal Donoghue was lined up for some European job, and
yeah, he's applied. Yeah,
but that seemed unusual. Why would he leave government?
They're freeing up the ministry. They're freeing up the ministry for somebody.
Yeah,
I'd say somebody, Michael McGrath.
But Pascal Donoghue would be the right. I mean, more of a rising star than Leo. No, why shove him to Europe? Maybe that's why.
I don't know.
But he seemed to be sort of going for that job. I mean, that seems like a job Brian Hayes would go for. Like, you know, Pascal Donoghue's Minister of Finance. I mean, it's huge job. I mean, I would have thought he would be hoping to keep that for in a coalition. No?
Well, see, I never thought of it that way. Now that you put it out there, I thought that he was applying. I thought as they were going to free up a ministry to dangle in front of the others. I think Micheál McGrath is probably the natural in finance. And I did hear anecdotally from a Fianna Fáile that they actually didn't care as long as they got housing. So
right. Okay.
We know exactly what the programme for government is, John, when we see who gets what job.
Well, no, I was just saying that in terms of whether a deal is going to happen.
Oh, I think so.
It seemed curious timing, though, that he would approve him for, you know, a European job, unless they kind of know that this is not going to really happen.
Pascal has never really been a Fine Gaeler, though. He's always been a bit of a solo actor. You know what I mean?
He's Michael Noonan's, you know, a real chosen guy. You know, I don't want to say boy, but
yeah, but he's not part of the Simon Harris, Simon and Coveney and Leo, and you know, sort of the younger. No, I get the impression.
He bridges. I think he bridges the gap between both.
Yeah.
Sections of Fine Gael. I think that's obvious, and he is the most sort of empathic.
Well, not towards the credit unions, he's not. He's fucking been shafting us up and down the country every chance he's got.
I know, but he does it in a manner in which his masters
we don't feel pleased,
it. You know, like you don't feel it. Listen, sorry, I'll go then.
No, we're done. We'll just wrap it up.
No, sure.
You guys wrap it up. Sorry for disturbing you.
No, stay. Say goodbye.
Say goodbye, John Ron.
Ta-ta. Off. I'm off.
No, stay where you are. We're just putting down the life.
He's gone. A man of mystery.
I know. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed this evening's show anyway.
And we'll be back next week, even though he'll all be in the boozer. So we'll say...
We won't.
We'll say big thanks to everyone who's tuned in, to those of you in the chat pit. Who's in there tonight? I'm just looking at the names quickly. JDF Reality, Bitchin, Mac. I don't think I missed anyone. And from the Countess of Crumlin, Vanessa Foran.
The Countess.
The Baron of Barcelona, Mr. Ryan. And the sausage maker of Silicon Valley. That's the best I can do.
The cast is starting to sound like something out of, you know, a Grimm's fairy tales.
That's you said it. I didn't say it. You said it.
Yeah.
On that note, good night, folks, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Night.